Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and the winner from the latest poll was about whether or not MPs are accountable for what they say. In other words, can MPs lie? So let's have a little look at the Brexit process recently. We've seen a number of MPs recently lying about polling results. Some Conservative MPs and peers have said in the House, as well as in interviews in the media, that an overwhelming majority support a no-deal Brexit. However, this is not what polls are saying at all. The majority don't want to leave the EU at all, and an even larger majority want a second referendum, according to those polls that they're citing. In fact, a number of Brexiteers have been telling lies in the media, in particular that have not been challenged by the journalists interviewing them. But in a slight bucking of this trend, when Boris Johnson wrote an article in the Daily Telegraph, a paper that pays him over £250,000 a year to spout his lies, that polls suggested most people wanted a no-deal Brexit, they were actually forced to issue a correction. The paper has only just recently admitted to the error. They had initially tried to say that it's an opinion piece and that they didn't believe people would take it seriously, that it was clearly comedic. Why? Because Boris Johnson was writing it? I mean, a former government minister and still MP talking about the most serious issue that the British Parliament has ever had to decide upon, and they're trying to say people wouldn't take it seriously. But the reason why this lie could be called out and not lies that he would tell in the House of Commons is potentially because there's a press watchdog. If someone says something untrue in a newspaper, they can refer the article to the watchdog, ipso. The newspaper has now had to publish a correction saying, in fact, no poll clearly showed a no-deal Brexit was more popular than the other options. However, MPs in general do not have to tell the truth. During the 2017 general election campaign, the Labour Party complained to Number 10 about the blatant lies that Conservatives were telling to the electorate. Now, what was the response to this complaint? It's up to the opposition parties to call out untruths on the part of their political opponents. In other words, if the Conservatives lie to the public and the public believe those lies, it's actually Labour's fault. Now, last year, the business tycoon and crossbench peer Alan Sugar said that if he had behaved in business as Boris Johnson and Michael Gove behaved in politics regarding the Brexit campaign, and told knowing lies to his shareholders in reports, he would have been potentially jailed. He said that in business, all comments and forecasts had to be scrutinised line by line by auditors and lawyers in a tough due diligence process. So the £350 million a week claim would have had them facing serious consequences in the business world. But those same standards simply do not apply to politicians. There is no penalty for lying, and in fact they are held less accountable than you or I as ordinary members of the public. MPs enjoy what is known as parliamentary privilege. This effectively allows MPs to carry out their role with a level of legal immunity. It has what some would describe as allowing them to shine a spotlight on something in the public interest that other people would not be able to. Give you an example from last year. The billionaire Philip Green won a High Court injunction to prevent the media from reporting on allegations of sexual assault, or at least sexual harassment, racism and bullying in the workplace. So the media were bound by law not to report on this in a way that would identify him. But a Labour peer by the name of Peter Hain had been shown non-disclosure agreements and details of payments that Green had used to suppress these allegations. So he decided that shining a public spotlight on the allegations was the best way to ensure that Green faced justice, and so he went public with the information. He can't be sued. He's effectively not bound by that High Court injunction. Parliamentary privilege gives peers and MPs immunity from court action for anything they say. And it doesn't matter whether they say it in Parliament or the media, they're completely immune. So, for example, in the Boris Johnson case I just talked about, it was the newspaper that got clobbered, not Johnson himself. He's immune. But just as MPs can use this power to expose those using the courts to conceal wrongdoing, it can also be used to lie to the public to further their own political aims. Members of the public might reasonably expect that if an MP tells a lie, that there would be consequences. But there really aren't. You know, it is true that you are not supposed to knowingly deceive Parliament, but the penalties don't generally affect most parliamentarians. If you're a government minister, you are supposed to be sacked or resign if you are caught knowingly lying to the House. But you're still free to lie to the media, that's okay, as long as it's not in Parliament. And even if it is in Parliament, if you can try and suggest that you didn't knowingly lie, in other words, that you were misinformed and you're quite happy to correct that statement, then you still get away with it. But if you're a backbencher, there's no penalty at all. If you're not a minister, all you can do is lose your ministerial position. Well, if you don't have one in the first place, there is no penalty. So are MPs and peers accountable for what they say? Not really. They are allowed to lie with impunity in any way they see fit. So hopefully you found that video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe for further content, click the bell notification as well. And until next time, I'll see you later.